what it was like back then, well, I would tell you that the Bronx was burning. Hello, everyone. My name is Willie Estrada. My friends call me Marine Boy. Here, that's how people identify with me from the 70s. But I'm here to share some history with you guys. Just so you know, I come from a time before hip hop. When we were first dancing, there was no such thing as hip hop. And this is in the 60s. In the 70s, hip hop wasn't born yet, especially in the early 70s, when we were doing stuff. The most popular dances, in the 60s was mambo and salsa. And then came rocking at the end of the 60s. What we call outlaw rock today came from the outlaws, from the gangs, and from Vietnam veterans who came home from Vietnam, and they were still young, babies in the eyes of many, because they were 18, 19 years old, coming home, from a horrific war. And so these guys were kind of crazy, because sometimes they would battle, and sometimes, they make believe they're shooting you, or bazooka, hand grenades, all that kind of stuff, shooting, slicing. But one day, there was two guys battling, and one pulled out a real knife, and he cut the other guy by mistake. So they said, yo, you cut me, man. He pulled out a knife too. And then he cut him back. So I thought they were gonna fight. I'm like, holy shit. And they just started laughing. And I'm like, well, these guys are crazy. Vietnam veterans were among the most violent of gang members, by the way. Those guys were used to killing. So they didn't have no remorse. They didn't feel nothing when they killed. A lot of them were afflicted, mentally, and a lot of them were strung out on drugs, gang wars raging around. We used to fight in this park, I was a gang leader for a gang called the Imperial Bachelors. I was the warlord. Before that, I was in a gang called the Royal Javelin. So I was actually at that meeting in 1971. All those dances were being done in gang clubhouses. So it wasn't just coming from one place, and it wasn't just coming from the Bronx either, although the Bronx is the mecca for all that stuff. It was something that was that our families was getting from us, at house parties and stuff like that, when we did rock, and when we danced hustle, and when we used salsa turns while we were doing the hustle as well. There was a club here called the 310.5, right off of Prospect on Westchester Avenue. And then there was St. Mary's Recreation Center, which is right behind us over here. And that's where we threw hustle and rock parties every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. To 10 o'clock. And so people came from all over the city there to dance hustle and to learn from us. Okay, so, my thing is like, the influences, because I got into rocking in 1972, when I met my best friend, Willie Rivera. But, we used to do battling. Because we used to battle here in the Bronx too. Like they do in Brooklyn, only slightly different. But, it was all because the influence was that of battle. But then when the hustle came out, the hustle was stylish, you know what I'm saying? So that style we also added to rocking, you know what I mean? But when I look at top rock, I see, I notice resemblance to rocking, the type of rocking we used to do. And then we had floor rockers like Rubber Band, Salsa, Electrico, Mexico, who was actually a Puerto Rican guy, but he looked Mexican, so we used to call him Mexico. Anyway, those guys were the first guys I ever saw doing floor moves. They would stay on the ground and do floor moves. The best one of all of them was Rubber Band. His real name was Jaime Rosendo. He died on October 2nd, 1974 at St. Mary's. He got killed in an argument over $1. But he was the best. He was the best of all of them, and to me, he's the father of that style of breakdancing because of all the things I see him do. I belong to a dance team called the Latin Symbolics, which was the first professional urban street dance team in New York City history, founded in 1972 by George Vascones, But the last Symbolics, we had different types of dances. We did everything from mambo, salsa, rocking, the hustle, modern jazz. You know, we had our own studio, 333 East 149th Street, which is not far from here. And that's where, you know, we used to practice our routines and all that, because, you know, we would do shows. You know, I was the leader of the rock team, you know, and then we had the first 4-man rock team. We had the first professional rock team in New York City history too, because we used to get paid for doing shows. You know what I'm saying? So, and this was, you know, 74, 75, I actually started rocking with the Symbolics, I would say in 75. But before that, I used to enter contests, like since 73 with my partner, Willie Whip. The influence for me and the way I got better with rocking was by watching the Late Show, the Late Show, and the Late Show at nighttime, and they played all these musicals, and we would watch tap dancing, you know, and all kinds of other nice dances. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. Once in a while, you got to see the Nicholas Brothers and Sammy Davis Jr. and some of the other guys who did tap dancing. From watching them, I came up with this step. And I started doing this after that. And I started doing this. Okay, so all that came from me watching tap dancing. That is the power of influence. All right? I used, you know, moves that Fred Astaire did with Ginger Rogers for the hustle, but I also used turns from salsa and mambo for the hustle. So influence came from a lot of different places, but that's what I think, that's why it's important for me to point out the influence of something that you see is great, and you have to take that into account. And because the Puerto Rican community was here in the South Bronx in much greater numbers than any other ethnic group, I mean by a lot. You know, so of course we had big time influence, and the thing that gets me is that my generation is not taken into account when you guys talk about b-boying and rocking and top rock. That all came from rocking, man. They don't realize that we had rockers who did floor moves long before there were any b-boys, because in the early 70s there was no b-boys. And the reason I can say that is because when we did any kind of dancing back in those days, and we went to the high school, in the lunchroom, in the cafeterias, we would dance the hustle, we would dance rock, but you never saw anybody doing any b-boy moves. You saw floor rockers doing floor moves, but that wasn't b-boying. I just think that my generation should be taken into account, because you can't just leave us out of the mix. And there are stories out there that overrode our story, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. These guys are acting like we didn't even exist. We do exist, okay? And we were the first rockers, and I saw it go from a battling type of dance, you know, to a more finesseful dance where we did routines. But it all started, you know, with battling, even here in the Bronx. You'll see somebody else dancing, you'll see them do something, say, that was cool. Okay, let me see how I can twist that, because what you want to do is you want to be original. You want to make up your own moves. And that's the way I was. And I was the one that actually did most of the choreography when we used to do rocking, you know, because I was good at that. Every time, like even the hustle, we use funk and soul to develop the first version of the hustle before it was even called the hustle. And it was a very simple dance with no turns, and it was mellow. But songs like Date with the Rain from 1972, we used that, and that's what helped us make the dance faster. I take my hats off to the b-boys, you know, and even the top rockers who, you know, their dance is a lot more, you know, elevated than what we did, of course. You know, you guys are amazing, you know. So I like to think that you guys came from us, because I know you did, because this is the home of where it was all born, the Bronx, right? A lot of people don't know this, so I'll share this with you. Rappers first started rapping with disco beats. So disco was definitely an influence on that, because every single song that ever came out that was a rapping song in the late 70s, all the way to 1980, were they sampled the disco track, okay? The first one that was on the radio, Rappers That Like, Sugar Hill Gang, they sampled a song called Good Times by Chic, right? But the first person to use an authentic beat that was not sampled from disco was by a white girl by the name of Blondie, and the name of the song was Rapture, okay? And it was also the first song to go #1 on the charts. So to me, rapping was born from disco, okay? And then disco was born from R&B. That's when they started working, and people like Doc Rodriguez, they call him Doc. He's one of the finest producers from that era, earliest days of hip hop, and he worked with all the greats back in those days, including KRS-One and a host of others. But he'll tell you, that you couldn't even buy a mixer until 1976 unless you had a commercial license. So there's a lot of stories that are just, forgotten about. So all that history is kind of pushed to the side, by all these other stories. And you go, but that's because we're the older generations. I told Beat Strike that I would do something for him, because I think that this history is important for me. And I'll leave you with this last little thing. It was the Ghetto Brothers who first, used the ideology that would later be adopted by hip hop, peace, love, unity, and having fun. They were the first ones to do it. And they have the proof of it. Before Yellow Benji died, he left me all his newspaper clippings, his pictures, his memorabilia. I have it all. He left it to me months before he died. He wanted me to make sure that his legacy didn't die with him. But that is really for me, because remember, they had the first band, that was a gang, they had the first organization, and they had the first album release, And so their music, it captured, the ghetto, And we were all included. There was never separatism back in them days because we cohabitated, Black community, Puerto Rican community, and other peoples, because this place has always been very versatile, and there's a lot of diversity here. So, but the stories that have been kept out of the mainstream are starting to make way to the forefront, so to speak. Now, we want to bring you what really happened and show you. We don't just talk about it. We're going to show you. All right? So, peace and blessings from the South Bronx. And I look forward to getting some responses from you guys. And I hope you enjoyed the history I just shared. Willie Marine Boy, I'm out.